This is a unique hearing, and I want to say a few words before we start with our next panel, which I'll introduce shortly. We have with us today representatives from three corporations, the 3M Company, DuPont, and Chemours, and I believe this is the first time these companies have testified before Congress on the issue of PFAS chemicals. I'd like to welcome our panel and thank them for being here. We just heard from Lori Swanson and Rob Billett in how the cases they litigated against 3M and DuPont respectively relied on a long historical record that showed both companies knew PFAS chemicals, specifically PFOA and PFAS, were toxic for decades and yet continued to manufacture these chemicals and carelessly discharge them into our air, our water, and our soil. As a result, Americans unwittingly drank, ate, and breathed toxic man-made chemicals for decades, chemicals that can lead to liver disease, thyroid disease, kidney disease, cancer, and more. I'm hammering home this point because PFAS contamination is an issue that is just now starting to get the attention it deserves, and companies are only recently starting to pay for what they have done. As I've mentioned, the companies represented before us today are American institutions. They've made products Americans have been eager to buy, and they've helped create many of the conveniences of modern life. But that does not make them exempt from basic ethical standards of conduct. Part of why American capitalism has survived and thrived for as long as it has is because companies have historically treated both their workers and the larger American society responsibly and fairly, in addition to turning a profit. A company is not just a CEO or a head of PR, but the hundreds and thousands of people all working to serve a specific purpose. The relationship between companies and the American people is interdependent. Companies make high-quality products that Americans decide to purchase, and each makes the better off. And importantly, each trusts the other implicitly to participate in the marketplace in good faith. So when that covenant is broken, when the American people learn that companies have obscured and suppressed evidence and the chemicals they use and manufacture are toxic, it is a seismic event. I mean it because it shakes the foundation of democratic capitalism. And that's why we are here today. Not just to try and help gain some semblance of justice for the affected people who lived in contaminated communities, but also to ensure companies are held accountable for what can only be described as violating the trust of the American people. I certainly recognize that our panel here today represents companies that have, in some cases, undergone a lot of changes, including but not limited to corporate restructuring and changes in management over the past several decades. Chemours didn't even exist until 2015, when it was spun off from DuPont. But our subcommittee doesn't accept that these changes in corporate structure let the current incarnation of the company off the hook. A company is tied to its past, morally responsible for its past, and must answer for its past, no matter what changes have occurred from point A to point B. In the same way, a nation must contend with and be responsible for actions taken decades ago, even though there have been changes in government and leadership since then. This is Congress, the people's body, not a courtroom. And the American people recognize that companies don't just disappear into thin air because a few people in a boardroom somewhere decided that a merger and a few spinoffs might improve the company's bottom line. So I hope we don't spend this hearing trying to ping-pong responsibility back and forth between two companies or debating whether or not the DuPont that exists today is the same DuPont that dumped PFAS into the water. It also does not work to simply deny the science linking PFAS to serious health effects in Americans and try to leave Americans who were poisoned up to their own devices to clean up your mess. So I hope that we can all start from a common baseline, and that is the scientific consensus that PFAS chemicals, and especially the long-chain chemicals like PFOA and PFAS, are harmful to human health. Let's not get sucked into the rabbit hole of more research needs to be done, because you know what? That excuse can be and has been used to justify inaction, and the American people are smart enough to see that excuse for what it is. It's 2019, and if these chemicals are killing people, let's stop using them and let's get them out of our environment. I call on each company here today to come to the table, work with Congress and the EPA to address this national emergency. The lives of each and every American depend on it.